So you've got your handmade items, they're all ready to go and you're ready to sell. But how do you decide how much to sell them for? The good news is that there is a formula for working that out. The bad news is that it's not always as straightforward as you might want. The basic formula for working out how much to charge for your handmade items breaks down to three initial basic parts, which are the cost price of making your items plus the time you spent making the items times your required hourly rate, which on paper would look like this. So purely as an example, let's say you made a bracelet, it cost you £2 for the materials, it took you 2 hours to make and you want to be paid £8 an hour. You would work it out with the formula mentioned earlier. And if it were just that, it'd be fairly straightforward. But that's the easiest part, because although working out the time and your hourly rate probably wouldn't be too difficult, calculating the cost of making your items may not be quite as straightforward as it would first seem. Working out the cost of the materials is just the start, and even that is not necessarily as simple as you might think. So using the example I gave earlier, which was a deliberately simple one, you'd have the obvious cost of the threads. But then, what if you didn't use the whole skein? Let's say you only use a third of one skein but half of another, and that's just for a bracelet where you only use 2 colours. What if you've got one with 6 different colours or more? And then, as well as working out the cost of materials, your cost should include the cost of production. So the cost can be further broken down to materials plus cost of production equals cost price. So I'll start with the wear and tear on any equipment and tools you use. For tools and materials, it will obviously vary massively depending on what exactly you do, and it depends on what you use and how long they will last. Obviously, some things will last longer than others. For things that will last for years, I generally don't include them because for the amount it would add to the cost, I'd be looking at less than a penny. But obviously some things don't last as long, and if they're expensive, you do want to factor in the cost of their use. So this is an area where you'd need to make your own calculation based on your knowledge of whatever combination of items you use to make your particular crafts. To do this, you want to divide the cost of whatever the tools and materials are by the amount of handmade items you can make before they will need replacing. And this total should be added to your cost to make part of the formula. So purely for example, I sometimes use a glue gun when making certain crafts. The gun itself isn't that expensive and can be used repeatedly, but it can use up glue sticks quite quickly. So let's say I pay £3 for replacement glue sticks, and with them I can make 20 items. The cost of the glue sticks would be divided by 20 and added to the cost of production for any item where I used the glue gun. On the other hand, I often use a clipboard for making bracelets, but these will last around 3 or 4 years before I need to replace them, and in that time I could easily have made hundreds of bracelets, so don't try and work out the exact cost for something like that. Then there are all the other costs of selling: fees for a stall, cost of running a website, fees for a selling site, insurance, travelling, post and packing if you don't charge separately for this, and then to top it all off, what if you sell your handmade items in more than one place and they all have different fees? Do you just go with the highest price and make more profit in places that don't charge you as much to sell, even if that seems unfair? Or do you work out a different price depending on where you're selling to keep the profit the same regardless of the various costs? This might seem to be the fairest method, but you could risk customers noticing the difference in price if they remember you from elsewhere, and although some might understand the need for this, a lot won't. You see how it can get complicated? And I'll be honest and tell you, I don't know what the correct answer is here. So my solution when it came to the cost of selling was to go with the law of averages. I took the highest fees and the lowest fees and averaged it out to come up with the cost of selling. And I'm not going to say this is the right way to do it, it was just my solution. This is really something that you'd have to decide for yourself.